Hi guys, in this video we are going to talk about some of the top financial mistakes that foreigners make when moving out here and even sometimes traveling out here to the Philippines or Southeast Asia. Stick around. Hi guys, you may recall that I did a video similar to this a few months back. It was pretty popular. I think it had over 100,000 views. And I wanted to add some things to it that I had not included or forgot about. And so that's what we're going to jump into today. Now, if you want to access and see that video that I released a few months ago, you can check it out by clicking the link up above. So these are some of the top financial mistakes that I think a lot of foreigners just don't account for or plan for when they move out to the Philippines. First one is, I don't think a lot of people really plan for deposits, or rent, internet, transportation, the medical insurance, furnishings, and again, all the things you need to be comfortable in your new apartment or home. So let's go back to number one. Now the rent, this is why I always say it's good to negotiate down to just a 1 month deposit. Hey, I've even negotiated down to half a month deposit. I had a place in Davao that I was renting that was 25,000 pesos per month. I negotiated it down to just 15,000. I do that because a lot of times they just do not want to give that rental deposit back. And if you've only got 1 month deposit, well then by the time they subtract the electric, internet, water, there's only a little bit left anyway and you're not so worried about it. And I really would avoid, unless you just absolutely love this place and it's just a gem, it's a bargain, and you know you're not going to find another place like it, then I understand if you got to do a 2 month deposit to hold on to that place. Hopefully that last month you can skip paying the rent for the last month if you're going to put that big of a deposit down. The internet companies are now usually requiring deposits because they know that foreigners just get up and go and they were left with a 2-year contract and they're gone. So those are a couple expenses that people just don't account for. The other thing is transportation. You know, you may think for a while, okay, I'll just kind of walk everywhere, but then you start to realize it's much better to have your own transportation, either a motorbike, and if you're not comfortable with that, a vehicle, or even hiring maybe a driver in a car to be at your disposal, you know, when you need them, maybe a few times a week or so. And so a lot of people just don't account for that. Maybe you want to buy a brand new motorbike because secondhand can be a bit dangerous if you buy it from Filipinos, because a lot of times they just don't maintain it well. The best bet is always to buy a secondhand vehicle from another foreigner who's leaving, perhaps. You know, he's kept up with the maintenance on it. Another thing is people don't account for furnishing a place. A lot of these places in the Philippines are just semi-furnished, or you just have limited amount of things. You know, you don't really have proper sheets and towels and hand towels and maybe some rugs, and then maybe your sofa is just a hardwood bench. I had that in place before this. It was just literally a hardwood bench, and when I was watching TV, I just could not get comfortable. I couldn't sit for very long on it. I couldn't lay down on it. I couldn't recline in it. And I eventually went down to the local furniture store and found myself a very nice padded dual recliner. And that is what I still have. And it was very well worth the money that I spent on it. You may find that the beds here, you know, if you find a furnished place, a lot of times the mattresses here are not proper mattresses. They're just foam, like this big, and it's just a piece of foam, and it is not comfortable at all. There's no box spring or anything. So a lot of us aren't too happy with that, and we end up going out and buying a box spring and a mattress and to get comfortable. So these are a lot of other extra expenses that people just don't think about. A lot of people just don't think about covering yourself medically. They think, oh, well, it's so cheap in the Philippines. Well, yes, it is for just minor things, yeah. But if you have some kind of serious accident, perhaps you get into a motorbike accident, perhaps you get dengue fever. These are some of the most common things that I hear happen almost weekly. I hear of somebody, oh, I got dengue fever, I was in the hospital for 5 days, or I got into a motorbike accident. Well, guess what? Maybe you're liable. Maybe you got to pay for that person's damages. You got to pay for your own motorbike damages, your own injuries. Maybe you had a Filipina on the back of you, and now you got another person you're responsible for. You got to have money for that, which is why I do preach a lot the travel medical insurance. You know, it's worth having, especially if you're just here visiting. I mean, get it for a few weeks. Link down in the description. Other thing is, you know, I learned my lesson when there was a typhoon here. ATMs were out, power was out, internet was out, everything was out, so you could not access any money. So keep at least 1 to 2 months worth of expenses in cash in your apartment or condo or wherever. Make sure it's secure, you know, but I highly recommend doing that because you just don't know. Luckily, I had went to the ATM before the typhoon had struck, literally like a day or two before. The other thing people don't account for is just the cost of living goes up, you know, inflation goes up. And perhaps you want to take a trip home every year. You got, you know, once you give away all your possessions, like for example, me, when I go home in the summer, in I think June, I won't be staying with relatives, so I have to rent out a hotel. I've got to get a rental car, airplane, food. You know, it turns into a very expensive trip. Now, if you've still got family members that you can stay with and eat at their house and maybe borrow one of their cars, then that's a different story. But a lot of us don't have that luxury. So you got to account for trips back home once in a while. Visa costs, you know, even though it's not that expensive, it does cost money every few months to keep extending your visas. Maybe you want to get a long-term visa, then of course that's going to be a deposit and more money to process. Maybe you want to take some trips. Maybe you just don't want to sit at home all the time. You want to find some kind of a hobby to do. For example, I'm going to get back into scuba diving, and I haven't dove in 5 years, so I'm taking a refresher course. Now, if I want to start doing diving on a semi-regular basis, that's going to cost money. You got to account for these pastimes that you want to do. Now, if you're okay with just hanging at the pool all day and going to the coffee shop, going out with your buddies to have beers, you know, sure, maybe that doesn't cost as much. But if you want to get into doing some, you know, travel, you got all these beautiful waterfalls and all these islands around, and you got some of the best snorkeling and diving in the world, then that costs money. So you got to account for that as well. Now back to your home. If you rent out a place, and even if it is furnished, you'll find that there's just a few cups, a few glasses, a few utensils, a few pots and pans, maybe a rice cooker. If you want things like a microwave, a slow cooker, some good quality pots and pans or utensils or things like this. You know, we had a Keurig coffee machine given to us for our wedding gift. Now, of course, we have to purchase K-cups, and you order those from Amazon. Those aren't exactly cheap either. So, yeah, you got to account for all these extra things. You can't just say, okay, I've seen vlogs where people have been living on $1,000 a month. Yeah, you know, can it happen? But it is by the skin of their teeth. It is not really a good philosophy to go with a set amount of money like $1,000 a month and go and live at $1,000 a month. You are just one thing, one disaster away from being out on the streets or who knows. But you have to account for so many different things. Have a nest egg, have a retirement fund, have emergency money in your house in cash, have multiple ways to access your money, cash remittance, Wise account, a second bank account, a credit card. A lot of people move here. I talked to a guy just the other day. He said, yeah, I moved here. I stopped paying all my bills altogether. What are they going to do? They can't garnish my disability, he said. And I was thinking to myself, well, yeah, but now you've got no credit. Now, if you want to buy a ticket back home, pay for a hotel, car rental, you can't even hardly rent out a car, I think, in the States without a credit card. You can't do it with a debit card, as far as I know. If you have some major emergency, well, you know, a credit card does help. A credit card can help you in a major emergency to pay the hospital bill. But a lot of these guys, they just let their credit go. I still continually work on my credit. I actually monitor my credit and keep trying to get it to go up. You know, you just never know when you may need some credit, you know, to get that plane ticket back home or whatever, some kind of a medical emergency. So take a look at really plan out these expenses. Plan for the worst. You know, just imagine moving here and the place you really like is totally unfurnished. You may move into a place that's got a 13-inch TV and you want to upgrade it, you know, to a 65-inch TV. Maybe you're just really into movies and series. Well, you know, that small little TV that your place came with is not going to cut it. So, guys, account for all these extra expenses. Just assume some of the worst things. Assume that you're going to have to pay a double deposit. Assume a medical emergency might happen. All these things. So, thank you guys for watching. Check out my website for a lot more information. Sign up for consultations with me if you need help moving or traveling out here. And check out my Geo Travel Essentials for things I highly recommend for moving or living out here in the Philippines. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.